Hi, my name's Brenda Brown and welcome to my video blog. I am the very fortunate winner of the Q104 and Maui Surgical Weight Loss Center's contest, which is allowing me to look forward with great excitement to the opportunity on August 19th to have my own lap band procedure. This is my first attempt at video blogging, and I'm learning this morning that it is far more challenging than I realized. I am a parent of 2 stepsons and a daughter, so the first thing you can imagine if you also are a parent is how hard it is to find time that the house is quiet and that there's no toys or other paraphernalia behind me. As a person that's fought my weight all my life, you can also maybe appreciate that being in front of the camera isn't usually my place in the room. I'm more often the one saying, oh, I'll take the picture, I'll do the video, so that I can be behind the camera and not captured myself. So this is a new opportunity, but it's a part of an exciting path that I'm starting to go down right now. As I started to look at weight loss surgeries, even before the contest, I came to learn that part of what was necessary to prepare for that was to do a look at my own diet history. So I thought I'd share some of that today. My diet history, as I first recalled it, goes back to being in Weight Watchers in about 1st grade. When I talked to my mom, I came to find out that no, my diet history went back farther than that. Actually, she could recall that back in, when I was 1 year old, I had a cyst removed, and at that point in time, the doctors were saying, oh, you better be modifying what she eats. She's a little heavy. The freeing part of that, I guess, was that I came to realize that, wow, as an infant, I can't really blame myself yet for those bad choices. But the sad part was to realize that really that pretty well wiped out any belief that there was a part of my life when my weight wasn't a battle, that it wasn't a big fight. Sometimes you're up for the battle and fighting hard and trying to get over it, and other times you surrender to the battle and do what seems easier. But the battle rages on nonetheless. I also remember as a child hearing the doctor say as we would leave the appointment, let's help this girl grow up instead of out. I remember the Scarsdale diet as a kid, and checking that darn paperback book for what we could eat and what the next meal was, and having that boring repetition of the same thing every Tuesday, week after week. As I got to be a teenager, I started more under the diet plan of, oh, I wish I could go to that dance and look better, or I wish I could have that dress, or I wish I was more like my friends. And at times that was motivating enough to get the exercise going and get the food choices improved. And at other times it was another point when the battle kind of surrendered, and I realized that I wasn't going to quite achieve the goals that I wanted. As an adult, I think the best diet phase of my life probably came when the drug Redux was available. I was really slow to go to the doctor to have that opportunity because I had spent so many years hearing from doctors just how bad I was how I interpreted it, at least. And so it took a while before I was brave enough to decide that yes, I will endure medical care so that I can have this opportunity. At that point in time, I actually hooked up with what turned out to be a wonderful doctor. She was very supportive, very understanding, and did support me in having the Redux prescription during that period of time. It was an awesome chance to feel like my appetite could be controlled, and that I could make some good, steady progress. But of course, I was still trying to make that good, steady progress at the point in time that drug was recalled. And I remember also what a struggle it was to give in and put that in the envelope to mail it back to the company as a part of that recall. I really, really wanted to finish at least that bottle, but at some point I finally accepted that even if I finished the bottle, that wasn't going to get me clear to my weight loss goal, and I wasn't going to have that to be able to work with any longer. So I surrendered and let it go in the bag and let it go. At that time, I think I really convinced myself that maybe something very similar, that they'd be able to tweak it a little, improve it a little, and that it would be back out on the market soon. I can say now that I came to learn that it didn't ever come back in that same way. And so that phase was over. As I got a little older and finally became pregnant, of course, with this body type, I developed gestational diabetes during that pregnancy. And for the sake of my child, I found I was pretty able to stick to that diet. I learned some things. I remember going into the doctor, and I'd been keeping my food journal and doing my blood sugars and all those sorts of things. And I remember going in and him looking at some blood sugars that were really bad, and you could just see that disgust on his face and a clear preconceived decision that I had to have gone to the donut shop that morning, and what kind of foolish patient idiot was I. And I also remember the look on his face when I said, no, I had grape nuts that morning. I came to learn through that blood sugar measuring that cereals and breads just shot my sugars through the roof, while other diabetics I knew could go to Subway and enjoy a turkey or some other lean meat sandwich and do really well and feel really healthy. Even the bread from a sandwich was enough to shoot my sugars through the roof. So I got in a routine with that diet and was really doing fairly well towards the end of my pregnancy. The baby was actually growing, and I was still losing, and I was feeling really great about both those things. And so had one of my better, it certainly wasn't to my healthy weight, but was at a healthier place than usual at the point in time that I delivered my baby. At that point in time, there was also then the plan of, well, do you want more children? What do we want to do for birth control? And with very little research on my part, I agreed to doing the Depo-Provera shot. I was poked with that first shot even before I left the hospital, and only later came to realize that yes, it was a true known side effect, that the Depo shot would make you hungrier. And that was not something my body needed. I brought that up at some follow-up appointments and was basically given the line of, well, yes, it makes you hungrier, but just eat carrots. And so I went on with that, either gaining or miserable for quite some time, until finally had an emotional enough day in the doctor's office saying, I just can't keep doing this to my body. The hunger is a real barrier. It's a real problem. The carrots don't do it to fill me up. And an increased appetite just doesn't work for me. So we made some switches and had some improvement again, but still not able to really achieve my goals. Finally, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, I saw the very famous lap band commercial where the woman represents her